referenced the difference where we work in the people who are in the sexual trafficking area, in Mumbai, in India, in Thailand, some of these other areas where really it's tragic and impoverished. And then you talked about Amsterdam and the way they glorify the sin and the sensuality, the two different pictures, but yet something quite remarkable you saw in something that happened in Amsterdam. Tell us about it.
I think any one of those settings is just, it's horrible and it's awful, and I think it's so hard when you're standing there to make sense of what you're seeing. But we were talking about how in Mumbai things are just dark and the women are behind bars, and that has its own kind of horrific thing to it when you see them actually trapped in it. Amsterdam was traumatizing, I would use that word, in a very different way because it's so celebrated, and it's like flashing lights, it's neon lights, it's music, it's a party. There's 400 windows with a woman behind each one, and they're organized by nationality. So if you want a girl from Eastern Europe, you go to this section. If you want a girl from Africa, you go to this section. It's like a shopping mall of human beings. And every time I go, still, because I go there each year, it's still one of the places that I feel like takes me the largest number of days to really kind of process it and feel like I can actually speak again, because it really does affect you so much. But one of the first times I was there, I ended up meeting a girl who was working behind one of the windows, and her story is in the book, and her name in the book is Annie. And she invited, I was there with a friend. Wellspring we don't start our own projects in these places, but we come alongside organizations that are already doing the work. And so I was there to visit one of those groups called Scarlet Cord. And I was with their director walking through the district, and this girl, Annie, invited us in and asked us to sit down and started to tell us her story. And she would go back and forth. Like in one moment, it was like this fragile child. And then the next moment, it was this fierce, angry person. You know, she said, I tell girls that start to work here, I tell them 3 things. Never trust a man, he'll only hurt you. Don't do drugs, it'll make it worse. And number 3, always carry a can of petrol with you so that you can set them on fire if they do try to hurt you. And you know, she wasn't kidding. Like, I wasn't quite sure how to respond to it. But there was this fierceness and yet this brokenness at the same time. And she was sharing her story with us and what had happened. And it was actually her husband that had put her in the red light district. She was from Malaysia and had met this Dutch guy who had come through her country. And very long story short, he had asked her to marry him, and her family encouraged her to go. It was a great opportunity, and so she did, thinking this would just be, you know, a dream come true and a new life. And gets to this new country where she doesn't speak the language, she doesn't know anyone, her passport's taken from her, and he puts her behind a window. And so that's how she ended up working there. And she told us her story and all that had happened. And at one point, my friend said to her, you know, have you ever considered going to church? And she had told us, she said, you know, I believe in God. I think about him each night when I try to wash this horrible, dirty feeling off of me after a night's work. But her idea of God was kind of a combination of, I think, several different religions. There was a little bit of Buddhism in there and that kind of thing. So it was a bit of a mixture. And so my friend said, well, have you ever considered going to church? And she laughed. And she shook her head and she said to us, you tell me, if I walk into one of your churches, will they see me as a woman or will they see me as a prostitute? And I didn't answer right away because I'm not sure I'm that proud of the answer, to be honest. And my friend was honest with her and said, well, some people would see you as a prostitute, but they would be wrong. It's not how Jesus would see you. He would see you as a person. And she said, no, the problem with your people is you tell me that I should leave, but you never want to let me forget where I came from either. And it was so, I've never forgotten that. I don't think I'll ever forget those words. It was so convicting because she was right. We do it to each other and we do it to other people, and it is not a reflection of God. It is not a reflection of Christ. And her words were very heartbreaking, I think, but I have actually prayed that I would never forget them because I think they're an important reminder for all of us of what we are supposed to be showing of the love of Christ and how we sometimes fall very short.